So I wanted to just throw this out at you. You're seeing all this defunding police department stuff all over, or dissolving police departments. I don't know what they're thinking, and it does show you the divide in the black community versus a white neighborhood, where I do think that people kind of think of police officers as someone you call for help in a white neighborhood, but in a black neighborhood, and so I don't understand how I don't get it how they feel that way. But I think that's part of the point, that if you haven't lived in an inner city, in a black neighborhood, and if you're not black, maybe you don't understand. Like the criticism of Drew Brees right now is that he doesn't understand. Well, no, he doesn't understand. And I don't know that but it does seem like he's trying to understand. And I know who was the lineman that can't wait to play him.
Malik Jackson.
Yeah, I think that's unfair, because I think that he didn't grow up in that. Where we grew up, the police, that's who you called. I will tell you, police, when they're tucked in a little driveway somewhere behind some trees, radaring you on the road, that is an automatic feeling like, oh, great, there's a cop. But for the most part, police being called means to help you. But I got to tell you something. I think this Minneapolis Police Department, the more I read about it, the more I hear about what has gone on in Minneapolis, it's like they have a culture of just a bad department and a lot of trouble. Yeah. We had somebody on talking about this yesterday, saying just read up on it. And I did. There are a lot, it always takes a bad egg. There are a lot of bad eggs, it seems, in Minneapolis. So listen to this. Videos have been making the rounds in Minneapolis during the protests, showing state troopers slashing all four tires on numerous vehicles, one after another, during the protests. So vehicles are parked. They're going around the vicinity and slashing tires.
The cops?
State police in Minneapolis. They finally, the troopers owned up to it and said they did it to, quote, stop behaviors such as vehicles driving dangerously at high speeds in and around protesters and law enforcement. So they slashed their tires.
Yeah, I'm not. Who's buying that? I'm not buying that.
Here is
you cannot do that.
I can't. It's like saying, well, listen, we saw a bunch of people and there was some violence, so we decided if we shoot everybody, it'll solve the problem. It's kind of like just a blanket decision. We're gonna slash all of these tires. I mean, that just doesn't seem right.
No, that's outrageous.
Here's one of the guys that had all four of his tires slashed. This is what he has to say.
Just got back to my vehicle, parked in a lot, and the police slashed 1, 2, 3, 4 of my tires. And they've also slashed every other car that's parked in this lot's tires. Every car that's parked here has their tires slashed. Every single car. Unbelievable. I can't get home now.
It almost does seem like it is more of a, all right, you put us through this. This is what we're doing to you. I mean, to me, it just doesn't make any sense.
I think there's other ways you could shut down the roads in the downtown.
If that was the real reason. I just think it was just you know what, screw these people. We're going to flatten all their tires. And I have to tell you, the other part of this whole thing is, when you see pictures of protests that are going on now and were going on before, I would say there are more, in every photo that I've seen, there are more white people than there are black people marching. Have you noticed that? Look at the faces of the people in these protests and in these marches.
I have not noticed that, but
it is. Look at it when you see photos, because you'll see photos again today. It is a lot of. It's a very mixed crowd. Which I guess, if you're hopeful for can't we all get along, I guess that would be a real positive, right?
I do think that's a good thing. And I listen, this was so horrific. I'm almost surprised they can't pull the video down, because they would say that it's right. They're trying to. When I say they, I mean critics would say they're trying to cover this up. But I mean, I cannot remember the last time that I was able to watch somebody get murdered.
Well, it's interesting
on
that
YouTube.
you bring that up. Yesterday on Ellen.
On Ellen.
I'm sorry. Because
Elmo's got a daytime show?
The next word is Selma. So I combined the two. My apologies. Because this is serious. Yesterday on Ellen, Selma director Ava Duvernay, I don't know if I said that right, explained why the video of George Floyd's murder is so jarring. So why has this had such an effect? I mean, you can say this is terrible, looting is terrible, this is... I have never in my lifetime witnessed protests like we are witnessing right now. Like one event that has sparked, and I get it. I think the lockdown played a big role. People were just impatient. But I you'd have to go back to the 1960s, and I don't remember those protests.
Right.
I was too young for that. Mm-hmm. But in my lifetime, I've never seen anything so big when it comes to protests. So here's what the director said. This is according to the director. So this is someone who studies film. Said, here's why this one video is so impactful. Listen to this.
The George Floyd video just brought me to my knees. It was because we actually watched both parties' faces perfectly framed. It wasn't a body cam footage where you saw the black person be shot and you did not see the officer. It wasn't grainy footage from a security camera across the street. It was both men right in your face, right to the lens, one begging for his life and one taking his life.
It's really something when you think about it. And you see so many images and visuals on TV that things pass by you, and it doesn't impact you because you just don't pay attention. And I say you, I'm really talking about me. But when you really take time to watch that, and if you watch it in its entirety, Lord, it is impactful. Yeah. And maybe that combined with 2 months of lockdown, combined with the fact that this is a different generation. A lot of these people are in that are marching are in their 20s, and maybe they thought that everything was just okay and none of this stuff happened anymore and all of that. I don't know what it was, but something has made this one different. But part of it is watching that from start to finish, watching somebody's life get taken right before your very eyes. And it taking time. And as she says, framed perfectly, where you could look and focus on both of them. Pretty impactful.
The only other thing I can remember, and this was at least 10 years ago, was didn't Al-Qaeda put out a beheading video?
Yeah.
It was like the first time I think that we had, as a public, had seen that. And I just remember, I mean, I didn't watch the beheading, and I could not watch the entirety of the George Floyd video.
I didn't watch that, but this allowed you to, because this didn't have that graphic.
Right.
It sucked you in, and you watched it, and then all of a sudden you came to the conclusion, oh my God, I just watched someone slowly die that did not have to happen.
Well, and the internet nowadays lends itself to a lot of disturbing stuff. You remember back to Bianca Devins?
Yeah, that was just horrific. And those are horrific photos. All of this stuff that you're talking about is horrific. It's different than this.
Yeah.
This just kind of, and I don't want to hear, and I've had many people that are even friends of mine that are like, yeah, but listen, this guy was doing bad stuff. He shouldn't have been doing bad.
Oh, get out of here.
I'm going to tell you something. Even the video that we saw about he's no martyr, he's no hero. Listen, he is a martyr. He has become a martyr for a lot of people, whether you want it to be that way or not. He has become that face of this. And no matter whether he was shoplifting, passing, there's no crime that I can think of that would allow you to slowly, over the period of 12 minutes, take someone's life. A police officer taking someone's life that way. When he's lying there saying, I can't breathe. I don't know. In any case where you could say, I mean, we have a court system to handle that.
Yep.
If it's going to be the death penalty for some heinous crime, we have a system in place that handles that. Mm-hmm. It's never given to one person to be able to do that. And that's why I think this just is so symbolic and so ugly and so terrible and has inspired so many people. So now we have to live with it. We have to figure out a way to get through it. And that's what I think cities are trying to do right now. And politicians are trying to do. And I do think they're struggling tremendously trying to get through this. Let me break.